My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 65 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and more importantly, my DraftKings plays. But before I jump in, become a premium member at WeWantPicks.com. It's only $10 a month, and it gives you access to all of our DraftKings content, including the optimizer you see in front of you right now. I am recording this in the morning, but this afternoon, this will be fully populated with the projected value, the ownership projections, and all sorts of other information and data and statistics to help you build a winning lineup. And all you need to do is come in here and you click a few buttons and you generate as many lineups as you would like, all the way up to 150. And then you go ahead and you win money. It's literally that simple. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click become a member. It is only $10 a month. You get this optimizer, all of our bets, all of our picks, but you also get DraftKings ownership projections. We rank every single fighter by salary group. You get our favorite dog, our biggest play, our fade, and all of that every single week. That's only $2.50 a week. But let's go ahead and jump in to this fight card. So we do have 13 fights. I am recording this before weigh-ins. If anything dramatic happens, we'll talk about it. But let's go ahead and get this going. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. Obviously, the Rodolfo Vieira, Cody Brundage fight has been canceled. That is what it is. But we have Natalia Silva, and she's taking on UFC newcomer Teresa Balada. Natalia Silva is nasty. She's nasty. She looked great in her last fight against Jasmine Jasudavicius. Defended 6 takedowns, got 2 of her own. Jasmine's a nasty, nasty wrestler. And she scored 85 points in a decision. She's fighting Teresa Balada. We're not going to have any information here because she is a UFC newcomer. She's a relentless grappler. She's going to come in, look for the takedowns, look for the control. I think Natalia Silva dominates this fight, but Teresa Balada is going to be shooting takedowns over and over and over again. So I don't know if Natalia Silva is going to be worth this $8,900. She certainly was worth it in her last outing against Jasmine Jasudavicius, but I don't think she would be worth it in this fight. I'm going to fade it because, Teresa Balada, I think she's just going to be diving at legs. And even if Natalia wins, which she should, I think Teresa is going to be able to take away a lot of the points earning with some potential control time against the cage and things like that. Then we got Brady Heistan taking on Fernie Garcia. I think Brady wins this fight. And if we look at his last fight, he scored 78 points in a loss. 78 in a loss, and that's because of this insane control time, 6 takedowns, a reversal. I think we get more of the same. He is fighting Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia can be a little bit dangerous. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got decent wrestling in his back pocket, but he doesn't really use it. But he just starts firing shots away. And, he's a decent striker. He's got good forward pressure style, and he can counter strike as well. I don't see Fernie winning this fight. He was beaten by Journey Newsom here, and Journey Newsom took Fernie down twice. If Journey Newsom's taking him down, Brady Heistan absolutely should. At $8,500, I think he is incredible value. If he puts up half the numbers he put in his last fight, he'll be worth that. Maria Oliveira taking on Vanessa Demopolis. I think they say statistically this 8,000, 8,200 spot is in optimal lineups more often than they're not. I don't know what percentage it is, 60% of the time, something like that. The problem is this is tricky because Vanessa Demopolis is by far the more dangerous fighter in this matchup. But Maria Oliveira, she's tall, she's long, she's a good striker with good leg kicks, and she can beat you up. But Maria Oliveira got sort of ragdolled by Tabitha Ricci. This Gloria DePaula win is controversial. A lot of people think she lost that fight. She's only got a 45% takedown accuracy, takedown defense. Her takedown accuracy is not really there. She's not really shooting a ton of takedowns, but she does get them when she needs them. And she's fighting Vanessa Demopolis, who is stupid dangerous. We finally watched her get her own takedown against Jin Fry, but before that, she was dropped, big time dropped with a big power punch from Silvana Gomez Juarez, and then she threw up an armbar and got there. So Vanessa Demopolis is very, very tough. She's not somebody you can easily finish, but she is very, very dangerous. I think Vanessa Demopolis wins this fight. And I know, as I just mentioned, statistically speaking, I think this 8,200, 8,000 fight is very important when it comes to getting an optimal lineup. But too many things can go wrong in this fight. If Vanessa doesn't get the takedown, she's probably going to lose a striking match. If Maria Oliveira gets taken down, she could be submitted. So I'm not going to have either one of them in my lineup, but if I needed to, I would go Vanessa for the stoppage upside because she is the far more dangerous fighter here. And then we got Ricky Tursos taking on Kevin Natividad. Ricky Tursos traditionally is a ridiculously exciting, high-paced fighter. And we look at this fight against Brady Heistan. He won a very close decision here. If you just saw the stats we did, he gave up 8 minutes of control time. And he still landed 201 total strikes, 100 significant strikes. The guy never stops. 120 points from a guy who was on his back for over 8 minutes in a 15-minute fight. But then he came out, he fought Zaman Sahabi, and just sort of was flat-footed, didn't have that volume, didn't come forward, didn't do what we like to see him do. I am going to assume that this was a one-off, that this was just... he just wasn't feeling himself that day because he's fighting Kevin Natividad, and Natividad's coming back after a little ways away. He is a really tough fighter. He is a grappler, not much of a striker. We see he was knocked out in these two fights, but we know Miles Johns hits like a freight train, and so does Denan Bagarai. And Miles Johns is a grappler. So that sort of neutralized Kevin's grappling. So listen, I think Ricky Tursos is going to win. I'm hoping he looks like he did in his previous fights and not his last fight. Therefore, Ricky Tursos at $8,600 could potentially be incredible value because he gave up 6 takedowns to Brady Heistan and still put up, 120 points? Still put up 120 DraftKings points after giving up 6 takedowns. So even if Natividad gets him down a few times, we know he can put up big numbers if he shows up. Then we got Miles Johns versus Vince Morales. This is another one. I like Miles Johns at $8,400. We know he hits incredibly hard, as she's seen here with the knockout over DeSantos. He knocked out Natividad. The issue, the risk, whatever you want to call it, is he doesn't always use his wrestling. He found these 2 knockouts. And then this fight with John Castaneda, he just sat there waiting, just sitting on a big power punch, and then he would throw it. And then ultimately it did not go his way. Miles Johns is stepping up on short notice. I think that this loss was hopefully a little humbling to him. He's a 12-2 fighter. He's very good. He's got a lot of experience here. I think this was a little humbling. So he got a little excited, 2 knockouts in a row. I'm hoping he goes back to his grappling roots because if we look at his first couple UFC fights, he worked in the takedowns. And you don't see it here, but in his first 2 UFC fights, he had 4 takedowns and 0 since then. So hopefully he goes back to his roots, that submission loss. Hopefully he's not chasing these knockouts. And he is fighting Vince Morales. Vince Morales is he's a well-rounded guy. He's a decent striker. He's got okay boxing. He does make up for technical gaps with just forward pressure. And he's just always working something. He does have power in his hands, but he goes to it often and then fizzles out, similar to what we saw Miles Johns do in his last fight. I like Miles Johns to get this done. Vince Morales, while he's well-rounded and busy, he's not incredibly dangerous. He's not the type of guy that you have to be worried about every minute of every fight. I think Miles Johns is the better fighter. Short notice could be a factor here, but I think he'll lean on his wrestling a little bit and just try to get this, this win, try to get that back on track and make some money before the holiday break. So I'm going to go Miles Johns here. I think he's worth that $8,400 because he is definitely the one with the finishing upside here with the takedown ground and pound or just the big time power in his hands. Then we got Marina Morose, and she's taking on Jennifer Maia. Marina Morose is a good striker, and everybody's forgetting that she's primarily a striker, and a good one at that, a technical striker, because in her last 2 fights, she's gotten 4 takedowns in her last 2, 5 in her last 3. She big sistered Maria Agapova, took down Madalena Silva, who's an incredibly good fighter, twice, 4 minutes of control time, won that fight. Sabina Mazo, more of a striker than a grappler, but she got that takedown and an insane amount of control time there. She is a striker, though. And she's fighting Jennifer Maia, who's very good. Jennifer Maia's had a little bit of a rough patch lately, but she lost to Manon Fiorot, who's the number 1 contender. Lost to Caitlin Chikagian, who's the number 2 contender. Lost to Valentina Shevchenko, who's the champion. So these 3 losses in her last 5 are to incredibly high-level opponents, and then she's beating who she's supposed to. Jessica Ai, Joanne Wood. She lost to Chikagian twice, but, you should be beating Moxiane Ronaferi, should be beating Alexa Davis. And then Carmouche was years ago, and she was just, taken down, held down. Point is, Jennifer Maia is very good. I do think Marina Morose wins this fight. I think she gets the takedowns, which is a new wrinkle to her game. I think she can win the striking exchanges. But frankly, I'm not spending $9,000. She is not worth $9,000. Not against a tried and true veteran like Jennifer Maia. And frankly, depending what your budget looks like, Jennifer Maia is the better play. She's the smarter play of the two because Marina Morose is not a finisher. Jennifer Maia is live in this fight because of her experience, because of her abilities and what she can get done here. So I like Marina Morose to win. She will not be in my lineup, certainly not at that price point. Then we got Charles Johnson at $8,700 taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Charles Johnson, his one and only UFC fight was to Muhammad Mokaev. He did put up a surprising 17 points considering he was taken down 12 times. He was taken down 12 times. He did defend 14. Muhammad Mokaev attempted 26 takedowns in that fight. But Charles Johnson is much better than his last fight. He's a former LFA champion. He's a very well-rounded guy. You know, he's mostly a striker, but he is pretty capable everywhere. And he's fighting Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who's absolutely a wrestler. He's just coming forward, throwing bombs, diving at legs. His chin is gone. His cardio's not great. But anytime you get somebody who is willing to just non-stop dive at legs, you know, there's potential to be held down the whole fight. There just is. I do think Charles Johnson wins this fight. I do think he's very fairly priced considering he should probably get a stoppage here. $8,700 for Charles Johnson is probably good money, but he is sort of unproven in the UFC, and we have to rely on his LFA experience, you know, to show us that, okay, he is the real deal here. But I think Zhalgas is past sort of his prime window there, and while he's tough, a gritty wrestler, and that's always a recipe for a win, I think we're getting a good discount on Charles Johnson here because I think the bookmakers and the people who set these prices are saying, well, Charles Johnson just got taken down 12 times. Zhalgas can do the same, but I don't think he can, right? Muhammad Mokaev and Zhalgas Zhumagulov are very different wrestlers. Jack Della Madalena, short and sweet, absolutely 100% should be in your lineup. He's my most confident pick on this card, as I think he is everybody's. I don't think I'm a genius for saying that. $9,600, all the stoppage upside. He's got decision upside as well. He's got a lightning fast jab. We watched him survive an early standing anaconda choke in this Amib fight to get the finish. Pete Rodriguez, you know, fine, whatever. That was going to be a finish all day, every day. But great striker, super busy, pretty well-rounded guy, solid takedown defense. He's fighting Danny Roberts. You know, Danny Roberts, they're just not at the same level. He is a striker, but he's not as good of a striker. He does have decent footwork, but he throws everything with power. And while he's trying to throw big looping punches, Jack's jab is going to be in his face, lighting him up, and potentially getting the stoppage here. So I think Jack Della Madalena gets this win. I think he scores all the points he needs to score. He should be in your lineup. Then we got Muslim Salikov, and he is taking on Andre Fialho. Frankly, both of these guys have heavy hands. They're both primarily strikers. Salikov's like a, you know, old school traditional martial artist, but he can work in takedowns. He took down Staropoli 3 times, Trinaldo twice. He did take down Jing Lang in that fight before getting stopped. So he's got takedowns in his back pocket. Heavy-handed striker, decent footwork, a little old, a little slow. He's fighting Andre Fialho. All power. All power. This dude is hittable as shit. You could just touch his face whenever you want. But tons of power. He blasted Van Camp, blasted Baeza. Michel Pereira touched him up. Touched him whenever he wanted to, hit him in the face. Jake Matthews is a grappler, and he was able to put Andre Fialho down. Frankly, both of these guys are a bit overrated. I'm not going to have either one in my lineup, but one of them will get a stoppage, and that's what makes this so tricky. I'm not going to have either one in my lineup because, frankly, I'm not positive what side is going to be on the who's going to be getting that knockout win. They both have power, but Salikov can wrestle. He can grapple. Andre Fialho doesn't really have the grappling in his back pocket. He probably has more raw power. He's definitely the younger fighter, but he's also the more hittable fighter. He is hit more often. So I'm not confident enough to throw either one in your lineup, but frankly, you probably should do Fialho. You're going to get him under that $8,000 price point. And, I mean, if he hits you, and you got big-time problems. So, you know, if you're confident on a side, pick it. Both of these guys are very affordable. It's almost even money. Fialho's probably the better DraftKings play, but Salikov has more ways to win. because he can ride out a decision with the grappling. Waldo Cortez, Chase Sherman. This is another tricky one because if there's a full fight camp here, I think Waldo Cortez wins the fight. He just comes forward, throws heavy punches, and I think he wins that fight. But we just watched him fight Jared Vanderaa. He only put up 59 points because he just came forward winging punches. That was it. There was no grappling, no knockdown. He didn't even seem to really affect Jared. And this was a close fight. He didn't even win all 3 rounds. And this dude, I don't know why they don't have the salary here. He was very high nines for pricing. And his leg got absolutely chewed up in that fight. He had to switch stances. His leg was bruised and battered, and that was just 2 weeks ago. And Chase Sherman is a tough guy. Bare knuckle champion. This guy doesn't give a shit. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw strikes. He's got great volume, good pressure. And yes, he lost 4 in a row, but Alexander Romanov outside of his last fight, killer. Jake Collier, this was just volume versus volume. It is what it is. He got taken down, submitted, and honestly, I don't think he was prepared for that. And I say volume versus volume because I think that's what he was prepared for, a volume striking match. But Jake Collier mixed it up, got the takedown, got the submission. Parker Porter, I know you guys love to hate him for some reason, but he's a personal friend of mine. I love that guy. He still landed 117 significant strikes in that fight. And they just volume for volume, and Parker got the nod. Andrei Arlovski, volume versus volume, Andre got the nod. So frankly, I think Chase Sherman is not the better fighter in this matchup, but if you're not trying to take him down, he will just come forward, throw this insane volume, and I think he can come out on top here because while he's hittable and Waldo Cortez hits very hard, Waldo Cortez's legs, there's no way his legs are at 100%, not after what just happened. So I personally am fading Waldo. He didn't finish Jared Vanderaa with a full camp. Chase Sherman just finished Jared Vanderaa. Waldo Cortez couldn't. And MMA math is stupid, especially at heavyweight. I'm fading Waldo. His legs are going to be compromised. Chase Sherman is historically a very tough guy who we just saw has a little bit of power and a ton of volume. I think Chase could actually pull this out. And if you want to throw them in there at $7,100 to free up some space, go for it, because at the very least, I think he survives and he should put up some numbers. Let's go to the Parker fight. He put up 48 in that loss. Frankly, this fight could look very much like this. Survive, land a ton of strikes, and at $7,100 to free up some of the more expensive fighters, you may want to go that route. Then we got Jan Kutilaba taking on Kennedy Nchukwi. I think Kennedy Nchukwi is worth the $8,800. My frustration with him in the past is he can be low volume. He can sit and wait and then eventually land the big one. That's what happened with Carlos Ulberg. That's what happened with Marquez. He was losing these fights and then came back to win it with the big power strike. The Roberson fight, we watched him work in some takedowns. He seemed to be a new fighter. He lost 2 in a row, and he's like, I need to change things. And he did change things. He came forward, got the takedowns, the eventual stoppage. $8,800 is probably solid because Jan Kutilaba is either gonna take you down and win by submission or get knocked the hell out. That's it. That's what's going to happen. And I think he gets knocked out. Kennedy worries me because of his low volume, but I believe in him. After his last fight, I think he's going to let his hands go. We absolutely know he has the power. We know he's the better striker. And then we have the main event, Sergey Spivac, Derek Lewis. Sergey Spivac, $9,200. Do it. Do it. Derek Lewis, I've mentioned this in the breakdowns. We've never seen Derek Lewis winning a fight. We've seen him win fights. We've never seen him winning a fight. Name a fight where Derek Lewis was up. He's winning the round, winning the next round, and then no. He's either doing literally nothing or losing and then landing the big power shot. I can't bet on a guy like that. Sergey Spivac is going to come forward, going to work in the takedowns. He's not an idiot. He knows what's waiting for him on his feet. 6 takedowns against Sakai, 3 against Greg Hardy, 3 against Jared Vanderaa. He's going to get the takedowns, 3 against Carlos Felipe. He's a good grappler. He has technical striking, but it would be stupid to be striking with Derek Lewis. He's going to get the takedowns. He will get the finish most likely. Derek Lewis, what do I need to say about him other than he's the hardest hitter in the history of the UFC? He has the most knockouts in the history of the UFC. So he's always dangerous. Always, 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 always dangerous in every fight. Pavlovic, he folded. Tuivasa, he folded. Gane, he folded. If you're not afraid of Derek Lewis, you can break him. And that's what those three people did. Obviously, Dawkins is a striker. He tried to strike with him and he got put to sleep. That's what happens. Curtis Blades, this is the two fights that worry me here are the Curtis Blades fight, because Curtis got the takedowns and then just bang, uppercut, knockout, and the Volkov fight. Volkov was beating him for 14 minutes and 50 seconds and then got knocked out with 10 seconds left. Those two worry me, but we know what Derek Lewis is. I trust Sergey Spivac to get it done. He will be in my lineup because he likely gets a finish. Guys, don't forget, WeWantPicks.com at the top here. Click Become a Member. We have a full DraftKings optimizer. We have all sorts of DraftKings plays. We have all sorts of prop-based DFS, FanDuel, all sorts of stuff for you. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member. It's freaking $10 a month. You build one decent lineup with the optimizer, you're covered. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member.